welcome back to the show. I'm here with Christian Taylor.
Hey, Phil.
Pink today.
You like this shirt,
Is
don't
it
you?
like every third week is a pink week?
No, it's been like 3 months. I have to space it out. This is my favorite shirt.
Is it?
But I can't
It's
wear
nice.
it every
It's
few
very
weeks.
cotton
Thank
candy.
you. It is.
And Sky Jatani.
You don't.
I
look
lost
like
my tan.
Sky.
Oh,
You got
no.
hair.
Yes. Oh, well.
Does everybody remember Drew? Drew Dyck is back for the third time.
Is that the third?
Third?
Wow.
Yeah, you were here
Okay,
twice
that's true.
when Christian was out on vacation or something.
Yeah.
You sat in for her twice, and now Sky is out on semi-vacation. He's in Colorado, and so I called Drew to see if he could sit in. That's why he's sitting in Sky's seat.
Second string. Happy to be here.
Fiddle. Second ukulele. He's playing the second ukulele part. Let's have a theme song. I don't know. Did we get requests? I didn't see any requests.
No,
we
people
have
were-
some left over from last week. Last week was our 100th episode. Did
Yes.
you know that?
Yes, I did. I saw the
A
banners
gazillion
and
questions.
festivities.
Oh, yeah, there were banners and there were festivities.
And hats.
And hats. Yes.
And we had quite a party after
did.
the taping. Actually, we didn't. We all went home. So
time for
what
party.
else did people request last week that I didn't do last week because I attempted to do a different character for every line and it went horribly because I couldn't remember the chords and new chords and new characters don't go together at the
That's
same
true.
time. They have to alternate. So pick a character. Let's Archibald Asparagus.
I was
Sorry.
going to say something British, so that's
Okay.
Or one of the P's. Have you ever done a P?
Oui, oui.
Let's
I
do-
think so, but I will do it again.
Yes.
This is Philippe Zippy. Hello, it's a podcast. What do you know? Hello, it's a podcast. And there's got videos. Hello, it's a podcast. So in here, the Phil Vischer podcast starts right here. We'll talk to Sky. No, we'll talk to Drew and Christian too. Because she's so pink here just for you. Oh, the gens des Ajavois. Hello, it's the podcast. What do you know? The Phil Vischer podcast starts right here. That didn't rhyme. The Phil Vischer podcast starts right here.
Awesome.
You don't. Okay.
I like Philippe.
You don't.
And
have to.
Jean-Claude.
You don't. Yeah, I like
Two
it.
of my favorite.
Yeah. Oui, oui. But sometimes they have me record, like if you're doing a song and you have to do a song. They asked Philippe and Jean-Claude for the country western album to sing a song with country western accents.
As French P's.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was really hard.
I
It's
bet.
like, so be French but country.
How the heck
And
do you
still
did,
try to- it didn't-
Maybe you ought to do that next time.
If I recall, it didn't go very well. Anything really interesting happen in your last week, either of you? Really interesting? Because I had something kind of
I
interesting.
kind of had something interesting yesterday.
Really? What happened yesterday?
So there's a casting director here in Chicago that's really, really tough, not very nice, and she has never been very warm to me.
Yeah? Because she doesn't like pink?
I don't know what it is.
She thinks you're being too Barbie?
I don't know what it is. But yesterday, she hugged me.
What?
She hugged me.
Really?
Some miracle
Are you
must
sure
have
she
happened.
wasn't just trying to move you out of her way?
She asked me to stay for 2 rounds of auditions.
Okay.
And at the end of it,
That's
I had this
nice.
big monologue. It was actually about an overweight woman talking about her struggles with
Okay.
her weight and stuff like that. And I honestly could have written the copy myself. So I
it was
didn't really have to memorize it, and it was
Okay.
very relatable.
Okay.
And it's that there was that moment at the end. I did the monologue twice where. In theater, you have the audience. You can feel it.
Yeah.
And so she was watching the monitor, not even watching me, and I could feel that feeling. And at the end, she said, nothing at first.
Yeah.
And then she said, if you get nothing else out of today, know you turned in an amazing audition.
Whoa.
And that has never happened
That's
to me.
cool,
And
'cause
all
she's
of
a
my
tough nut.
She's a tough nut. And then
She's cracked her.
she
She's
hugged
the-
me and she said, I love it when you come in. I mean,
What?
it was like a career banner day.
That's a red letter day, a gold star day. What would you say?
Yeah.
A gold star day?
Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So
Well,
thanks for asking.
My story's kind of like that.
Really?
Have you noticed as you get older how you get like little bumps and things on your skin
Yes.
that you didn't have when you were younger?
Yes.
Drew, have you ever noticed
Yeah,
that?
it's coming, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then your kids start like pointing
What
at
is
them
that?
like, what's this red thing right here, Dad?
Are you going to tell us a bad thing?
No, it's a wonderful thing.
Okay.
This sounds like it could be a gross story.
Where are we going with this? You never know with Bill.
I let out my dog This is like a week ago now, 5-6 days ago. I let out my dog, and it was in the morning, so I don't have a shirt on. I just got out of bed, and I'm standing there waiting for the dog to come back in, and I put my hand down on my tummy, and there's a new bump. I thought, oh no, a new bump. And I look down and look closely at the bump, and the bump has legs. That's not good.
How big was it?
Bumps shouldn't have legs.
Was it a tick?
It was a tick.
Oh,
Yeah,
you live in the woods. That's
yeah, I
why.
know. I live in the country now, and I need to be more careful. And I was clearing some brush the day before, and I didn't check myself for ticks, and he was like halfway inside. He was like buried, and I had a tick crisis. I ended up having to go to the doctor and to make sure, because I took him off, but I don't think I got all of them, because if you do it wrong, then their head stays inside, and then that's bad. And so I had to go, and then the doctor had said, oh, let me check, and he got these really pointy forceps, and he started poking and poking and poking, and he was poking his pointy forceps in my side for like 5 minutes.
Were you relating to Christ at that moment? Like, this is what it must have felt like.
They took the forceps, and they jammed him into his side, and out came a tick head.
Did you have
So now
a tick head in there?
He didn't really find anything.
Okay,
he
good.
said.
And did they test you for Lyme disease?
No, because it takes like 2 to 3 weeks for the symptoms to show up.
Well, I had a friend that had it
So-
not too long ago.
Really?
So pay quick attention
What did
because
they
it can be
do?
really bad.
I
Well, they
know.
didn't know it till they started losing hair and tons of weight and all this other terrible stuff. So
Not good. That's
so
not good.
now you're going to be
Okay.
hyper vigilant, right?
Yeah, well, he said, I got the whole sheet of here's what you should look for, and it's a bullseye-shaped rash. So just, you don't have any bullseye-shaped rashes on me? Here, check me. No, I don't. But it'll be like another week and a half before anything would show up. So now I'm regretting ever moving to the country.
Yeah.
That was not at all like my experience.
I know. It was not a gold star day.
It was not.
And I spent half the day at Central DuPage Hospital waiting for somebody to just take a look and tell me what they thought.
But I hear your wife has discovered essential oils now
Yes.
that she's slathering on you. So maybe
Yes.
those will help
We're
you.
all well oiled in our family now. I don't know if you know about essential oils, but they're the latest craze that all the young kids are into nowadays, including my wife. So she'll put like orange extract on me and say, here, put this on your hands and rub it and smell it. I'm like, wow.
Have you
Smells like
noticed
a
any
pine
difference
tree.
since she's been
I've noticed that I smell like a pine tree.
okay? All right.
I don't
worst
know.
things
There
to
was one,
smell
she
like.
said, this is for focus. This is for focus.
Were you more focused?
Compared to what? I don't know. I don't know how to rate my level of focus from
Okay.
one day to the next and connect it causally
Well, I tell you what.
to a drop of oil that was put on my
Why don't you
hand.
put it on before every episode of the podcast
and see
if
But
there's a
which
difference?
one? Of the focus one? 'Cause
Yeah,
I don't-
yeah.
Should I have more focus on the podcast, or is less focus more
I
amusing?
think that it would be an interesting contrast, and that way we would
question.
seriously know.
Okay.
You know.
Okay,
I don't know, it's worth
Drew.
a try.
Anything interesting in the last week? What was the highlight of your last week?
I had Lucky Charms this morning. That was pretty
Which
cool.
is your favorite
Terrible.
marshmallow?
I like this.
Which I just like the marshmallows. But you know
Okay.
what drives me crazy is that my wife sometimes will pick out the marshmallows.
That's terrible.
And then I go and I just get a whole bowl of
That's terrible.
non-marshmallow
Well,
stuff.
how do you eat your Lucky Charms?
Very quickly.
Do you eat around the marshmallows and save them all for last, like
No.
some kids?
No, I
you
mix
eat
them in.
everything.
That's sacrilege. I just
Everything all
what
together.
you get in a spoon is what you get.
Oreos, do you pull them apart and lick out the middle, or do you just take it all
None of that nonsense.
Okay.
It's meant to be eaten together.
together?
So, yeah.
Together. And M&Ms, my brother only likes to eat M&Ms in multiples, never a single.
I'm with them. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with
Okay.
you too.
Yeah.
There's something about, he says something about the texture of multiple M&Ms, the feel of multiple.
Okay.
This is our topic today, the eating habits.
That reminds me of Katie Couric's movie coming out called Fed Up. Did you see that?
Katie Couric has a movie?
But
Oh, I
she's-
heard of Fed Up. Is this Katie Couric?
Yes,
Is
she's
she
the
behind
executive
it?
producer, and I actually just saw the trailer of it when I was jogging. Thank goodness I was jogging when I watched it, because at least there was that. But one
As
of the
opposed to eating a Blizzard
Exactly.
in the Dairy Queen drive-thru,
Exactly.
so your kids don't know.
Exactly. One of the experiments was, it's all about the food industry and how we've been
Yeah.
tricked into, eating sugar. And so she was saying,
Wait, I'm eating sugar?
yeah, in
What?
everything.
I've been tricked.
And everything.
Yeah.
And she said they did this study on this rat where he was a cocaine addicted rat.
Yeah.
And they put it in
I
this
grew up with some of those.
they put him in this cage and he could have a choice of the cocaine
Yeah.
or sugar with an electric shock.
What? Is this a
Guess
true
what?
story?
This
And
true
he
story.
went for the sugar, didn't he?
He did.
Because
And
he was addicted to electric shocks?
no, because he's willing to take the sugar despite the electric shock.
Really? He preferred sugar to cocaine?
Yes, with an electric shock as a chaser. and I thought, well, that makes so much sense because even though I know that sugar is killing me,
How do we know he was addicted to? He liked the sugar and not the electric shock.
Masochistic
yes,
rat,
he was a maso rat.
well, I think there was
He
more
was
than
radichistic.
one. I think there was probably more than one rat.
Ratatouille.
Yeah. Anyway,
Wow.
so that
Dewey.
movie scares me. I'm scared to watch it, but I think I'm going to have to.
What's it called?
It's called Fed Up.
Is it a faith movie?
It comes out today. Is today the 9th?
Is it faith-based?
No, why are we talking about it on
We
the
only
podcast?
talk about faith-based. Faith? Are you faith-based? Are you faith? Are you based in faith?
I am based in faith, but I am also like on this weight loss journey. Like I've been doing this couch to the 5K for like 5 months
Are
now.
you weight loss based or are you faith based? Which is it? You can only pick one loyalty.
I'm
Can't
faith.
serve two masters.
Do you have faith in your weight loss program?
I have faith in my God to help me lose weight.
That's a good answer.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Drew had the honor. I told Drew, since he's on top of everything that's happening in the Christian world,
Wow.
on top of it, to send in some
Like
stories.
on top of Old Smoky.
Covered in cheese. Yeah.
And he sent in the Rob Bell Show has started taping for the Oprah Winfrey Network. Now let's back up to say who's Rob Bell exactly for some people,
Like me.
including some pinkish people on this set that weren't exactly sure who he was. Who's Rob Bell?
Rob Bell is the former pastor of Mars Hill in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Yeah,
yes,
right.
And it's been
Which is
about
a mega
year
church.
or two. Yeah, large church. He was
And
very popular.
he was the founder, right?
Yes,
He
that's
founded
right.
it. He was a Wheaton College grad, right?
That's right, and a Fuller grad, which is where I went to school.
No way.
So I got a connection right there.
Were you roommates?
No, he was there before me.
Oh, okay.
But I heard the legend. Anyway, so yeah,
Okay.
he went to Grand Rapids, kind of brought the California cool over to Michigan, started a church. And the rumor is, I don't know if this is true, but this is what I heard, that he started with like 2,000 people. So it's like a mega church, like overnight.
So
because there was a lot of buzz.
did
Anyway,
they all leave L.A. with him? Was it
don't
like
know.
the children of
I don't know if he
Israel and
packed
they
them up.
walked through the
I think
wilderness?
since he grew up here, he kind of had his fan club waiting for him. Anyway, and so they grew though to like 10,000. Brilliant communicator. Created these videos called Pneuma, which became very popular in the evangelical world. All kinds of lazy pastors used them in their sermons.
Because they were cool.
They were pretty cool.
Right.
And
Everything
a
he
best-selling
does
author.
is cool.
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
Yeah.
But he ruffled some feathers,
Yeah.
came out with a book, kind of denying that hell is real.
Yeah.
And anyway.
And was accused of universalism. He was accused of
Exactly.
universalism. Meaning
okay.
everyone will eventually end up in heaven.
Okay.
And
Because there's no literal hell.
Yeah, because God is love. He's big
Okay.
on God is love.
Love Wins is the name of his
Love
book.
hence
Okay.
the name of the book, Love Wins.
Well, love
As
does
opposed to
win.
Crazy Love from Francis Chan.
Or Love Does.
Or
Another
Love
one.
Does.
A lot
or,
of love.
Or my book, Love Doesn't. Or Love Oughtn't, which is my follow-up book. So he's kind of a celebrity pastor who then walked away from his megachurch.
That's right. Yeah.
And started doing tours and hip stuff. He's like the hippest megachurch
He moved to
pastor.
Hollywood, where he
That's kind of a
did various things. But
troubling
now
sign.
the story that I sent you was that he has a new, or he's
Maybe
going to have a new
all-
show on the old network.
Maybe
Oprah's
all
network.
megachurch pastors should move to Hollywood and be required to live in Hollywood, and they just have to compete to launch shows. And you see, and it's
That-
a reality show. The
that
whole
would,
thing is a reality
that
show.
would not go over well.
We take Bill Hybels, we take Andy
Yeah.
Stanley, we take T.D. Jakes. Oh, that's a reality show right there. Just those three, and move them all, and they all have to live in a hip pad together in Hollywood, and compete to land a TV show.
That's a terrible
My
idea.
money
And
would
the
be on
judge-
T.D. Jakes, man.
T.D.
That
Jakes
guy,
is going to take everybody else down.
man.
Yeah.
That's a terrible idea.
Do you know my only run-in with T.D. Jakes?
You got to run in with T.D. Jakes?
Not literally with
You
him
live to
physically.
tell about
Not
Okay.
physically. In 2001 or 2002, when VeggieTales was huge, there was a PBS special that did a story on 10 people to watch in worldwide religion. So 10 movers and shakers in global religion. And there were only 2 evangelical Christians on the list. Do you know who they were?
You and TD.
Yeah! Woo! Isn't that nuts?
That's awesome.
That
Pretty
nuts?
cool.
So anyway, Rob Bell.
Rob Bell. Yes.
Rob Bell, described as a pastor, author, and spiritual leader, has invited supporters to attend the first tapings of his new show, picked up by OWN, or the Oprah Winfrey Network.
Otherwise known as OWN.
OWN. Is that what they call it? OWN? OWN.
Yeah, they're not going to say
Like
OWN.
Oprah owns it.
Yeah, like Oprah owns everything.
The OWN network.
And this is Oprah's quote: "The ideas Rob sets forth in his books, Love Wins and What We Talk About When We Talk About God, opened my heart and my mind."
As if it already wasn't way open.
Yeah, she was very closed-minded up until this last year or so.
Met Rob changed it all.
People like him are the reason I set out to build OWN in the first place, to be able to gather a global community of like-minded seekers. So
Yeah.
Oprah has decided that Rob Bell is a like-minded seeker.
Got the
That's
Oprah
interesting.
stamp of approval.
So if we started a church that was seeker-sensitive, both Oprah and Rob Bell might show up in the congregation.
This is interesting.
What? Do you have any predictions for this show? What? Other than that, it'll be kind of hip.
Yeah, I think it'll be hip.
And
It
have
will
really
be vaguely
skinny glasses.
Christian, perhaps.
Yeah.
Very spiritual.
How, do you think he's moving farther? Because the famous tweet was when his book Love Wins came out, John Piper tweeted, "Farewell, Rob Bell."
Oh.
As in, you have just wandered off the ranch.
Okay.
Goodbye. If you're now doing shows with Oprah, are you wandering farther off the ranch, or are you holding?
Yeah, I think. Well, for evangelicals, he's jumped the shark, I would say, and I think he's fine with that, though. I mean, as far as book sales and tours, if you have Oprah on your side, you're going to do just fine.
Yeah.
But I think, and it's not just about, does he really not believe in hell, or his view of gay marriage, and specific issues. For me, I read that interview and watched some of it that he did with Oprah, the initial one. And she asked him questions like, what is God? And he says, it's almost like a song that you hear in another room. And what's the secret to life? And live with wonder, be awake. We all need to wake up. It's all good stuff. I mean, we need to live in the moment and live awake and live with childlike wonder.
Is this like a flight from doctrine?
Yeah, well, it's sort of like almost incidental to doctrine. It's not that he's denying key Christian doctrines. It's just sort of, it's the kind of stuff you don't have to crack your Bible to get. You can buy a Hallmark card. That's my thing.
So has he whitewashed the truth of the Bible?
Well, he's famously slippery when you try to pin him down on direct questions about where he stands on a Christian doctrine. But it's just sort of the fabric of his teaching is very...
Feel good.
Yeah, it's very feel good. It's very non-specific. It's kind of spirituality light. And I read one article, actually, a guy compared the kinds of things he's saying even to Joel Osteen, which, I mean, they're very different, and yet there's this
very
sort of
different, and yet
sentimentalized Hallmark kind of spirituality that he's
it sounds
spouting.
like he is truly pandering to that same audience.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's pandering or if that's really where he's been at all along, or if he's evolved and gone down that road. I know, especially people, the Piperites would say he has gone to where he belongs in going to Oprah. But yeah, I don't know. But it is worrisome to me because I'm an evangelical, and I think, well, if you can be in a room with Oprah and Deepak Chopra and these kinds of folks, and you don't have anything to disagree about, well, that's a problem theologically. I might be a curmudgeon.
Both Bell and T.D. Jakes, along with megachurch pastors and best-selling authors Rick Warren and Joel Osteen, have appeared on Winfrey's Super Soul Sundays and Oprah's Life Class programs. So that's an interesting...
Yeah, and I don't think I'm not into the
assortment.
guilt by association.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying this in case
I really am.
you are. Okay,
Yeah.
I know you're judgmental, legalistic Larry over there. But listen, if
I'm
Oprah
Bob.
invites me to come on her show?
Yeah,
to hawk
I'm
my
gonna go on
book?
her. Yeah, I'm going to go on her show.
Man, that's tough to turn down, right?
Yeah, but
I mean, she's not going to like what I say, but
Yeah.
I'll go.
Do either one of you know him personally?
no, Sky
Sky
does
does.
because Sky has filled in the pulpit at Mars Hill.
Okay.
When he was out, and so he's interviewed him multiple times too.
And what does he say?
Sky says he would look straight into the camera and he'd say, "Rob, you need to call me because we have to talk about atonement, substitutionary atonement. I think you've gotten it wrong." That's what Sky would say. And
Too
then
bad he's not here.
And then
to
Rob would pick up the phone and say, "Oh, Sky, what did I get wrong?" And then Oprah would say, "Stop talking to that fool. You're going to mess up your juju because
Oh,
you
gosh.
got a good Dr. Oz juju going."
Yeah.
Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz,
Yep. Now it's
Rachel
gonna be-
Ray. Does she
Right.
produce the Rachel Ray show?
I didn't think so, but I could be wrong.
Rachel Ray was her personal cook.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
If just you come within like 20 feet of Oprah,
And if she
Yeah.
likes
you
you,
get a show.
Exactly.
You just get a show.
You get rich, you get famous, bang.
Bang.
The Oprah effect.
Yeah.
It's awesome. But no, I will say this, from my conversations with Sky about Rob Bell, he says he's a terrific guy, and I have no doubt about that. It's just that I'm on a different page with him theologically, which
Right.
I don't think he's losing sleep over.
right.
But are you?
No.
Does Christianity Today still cover him? Is he still
That's interesting.
considered inside the sphere of what we want to keep people up on?
Well, I can't comment for
Officially.
the company. Officially.
Officially, on the
Yeah, but
record.
Off the record, I'll tell you, no. There have been no clandestine conversations
No-
about Rob Bell.
but no recent stories
He
either.
has kind of moved beyond the evangelical sphere, like I said.
Yeah.
And so there haven't been any, stories about him recently. Maybe like peripherally, like, oh, he's doing this new show with Oprah.
Mm-hmm.
They'll probably cover that in the news section. But he's not a pastor anymore. So
Right.
he's just not in that
Right.
world. He's publishing with secular labels. No, that's fine. But yeah, it's just not our world anymore since he's kind of moved out of ministry.
Well, I have an eschatological question
Whoa.
for you.
Oh,
It just got deep in here.
wait a minute.
So, and maybe it's not an eschatological question,
This guy's not here right now.
but do
right, he's the
you
eschatology guy.
think that pastors or teachers that teach, in the name of Christ, but they do have this feel good, watered down, theology that appeals to masses because of its, either God's going to bless me financially or else, I'm going to be warm and fuzzy, lovey. Do you think that's what the Bible talks about when, talks about there will be teachers and
False teachers?
and, that will basically masquerade as the truth, and we have to be able to discern?
I think the question is, for me, are they using a very accessible message to try to connect people like into small groups and Bible studies where they would go deeper, or are they just staying at that superficial level?
And this is what I've heard repeatedly. For instance, Joel Osteen, right? He's famous for this sort of Christianity light, if you will. But I'm assured by many people, they have a great discipleship program. So the idea is you have the soft touch ministry, right?
Right.
You have him
Right.
smiling, he's always smiling, and saying
He was
positive,
born
sweet
smiling.
things. Yeah. And then people will kind of come into the church and get connected. Of course, most people are watching on TV. But then we'll disciple you on the
Right.
back end and tell you the things like, you got to take up your cross and follow Jesus. My problem with that, though, is that it's a classic bait and switch, right?
Right.
It's like, okay, come on in. Jesus is going to show you how to make your life better. You're going to have a better marriage, a better job. You're going to get rich, which is probably not true. And then once you get in the door, ta-da, here's the real deal. There's hard things going on. So now I don't know if I would use the term false teacher or get real, crazy and ranting about it, but I would say that it's the wrong way of going about things. And I think what it does is it inoculates a lot of people to the faith, because they go down that road and they get positive for a few years and realize they don't become millionaires. And then they go, oh man, I tried the Christian thing, it didn't work.
And do we have Norman Vincent Peale and Robert Schuller are they kind of the godfathers
Absolutely.
of that?
Yeah, they're the antecedents to this.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's
That's
not...
a good word too. That's better than godfather. Antecedent.
Not better than
I was waiting to get that one
That
in.
means
It's not better than eschatological.
they are against gay marriage. I think. 'Cause
You might want to look that one up before you buy that.
Sedent is Latin for two men getting married.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you know,
Thanks. You learn something new every day.
Follow-up
pretty
question
well
then.
educated.
If that isn't what one of the false teachers would look like, what would one look like?
Well, you know, if someone says things that are, well, and perhaps some of them are false teachers, I wouldn't say that they're not. But I think, you know, when you look in the New Testament, for instance, the people that were being spoken against, the Gnostics, for instance, and John says, hey, listen, you'll know these jokers. They'll try to deny that Christ came in the flesh. So test the spirits and see if they came, you know, if Jesus came in the flesh. Because they were saying, oh no, the material world is evil, so Jesus couldn't have been a human being. Literally, he just appeared to be one. So that's an example of taking the historical Christian faith and twisting it. And so some of these people aren't doing that. They're just, you know, a lot of these guys, I'm sorry, I don't think they know the gospel if it climbed up and bit them in the butt. But they... Is that weird?
I just got bit in the butt by the gospel.
And I didn't even know that it was the gospel. Okay, so, because here's my thing. You can't just preach a motivational sort of feel-good thing, sprinkle in the word God and Jesus here and there and call it Christianity. It isn't. If it's not fundamentally the gospel, if it's sort of incidental.
But aren't we all, everyone who teaches, I teach.
Yeah.
I do
You
these.
do? Are you
I
sure?
do these Bible DVDs for kids. I'm sure I've gotten a few things wrong.
Absolutely.
Does that make me a false teacher?
Absolutely. No. Like my one seminary prof said, it's not a matter of if you'll teach heresy, but when and how often. Okay, so no one gets it absolutely right.
I'm trying to limit myself to once a week.
Exactly.
My
So you just
weekly
gotta-
heresy.
Yeah, it's like, you know, eating bad foods. You just do it once in a while in moderation.
Right.
No, but yeah, I mean, if there, you know, is nothing fundamentally Christian about what you're teaching, I would say that you're not a Christian teacher. You might be a Christian who's a teacher, but not a Christian teacher.
Okay.
Right.
That's just my beef, though. Yeah.
And is it bad to be a motivational speaker leading a church?
Yeah. Wow. I don't know. Yeah. That's
Because we like motivational speakers.
Sure.
Mary Lou Retton makes us feel good.
yeah.
They all, you know.
Does she lead a church?
No.
Oh.
No, she's a motivational
The
speaker.
Rudy, remember the Rudy, whatever his name is?
The Rudy?
Rudy Rudiger. That's it.
Oh, yeah, from Notre Dame.
Yeah,
played
he's a
by
big
Sean Astin. Astin?
Is it Aston?
I think it's Astin,
Oh,
isn't it?
yeah.
There's no U.
Rudy is quite the motivational speaker.
He's speaking of faith movies taking the nation by storm, I think Mom's Night Out just opened in theaters.
Oh, I can't wait.
What is that? I haven't
It's
even heard
supposed
of
to
that.
be good.
I'm sure it is.
It's supposed
What
to
is
be
it?
good.
I'm
Don't you
sorry.
bring that attitude in here, young man.
Is it a Christian movie?
Yes, it is. It's made by the Irwin brothers, right? The Irwin brothers, who are two brothers who done a lot of commercial production and Christian music videos, and also helped out with the Kendrick brothers movies.
Okay.
Because if you're Christians and you're brothers and you make films, you got to work together. So you got the Kendrick brothers over here making Fireproof and Courageous and Facing the Giants, and you got the Irwin brothers over here. And their first movie was, what was their first movie? October Baby? Yeah. Yes.
Oh,
the Irwin brothers.
I
They
Never
made
heard of that.
They made October Baby, and now their second one is Mom's Night Out, which is kind of the first attempt. History is being made. The first attempt at a faith-based, honest-to-goodness comedy.
Wow.
It's a comedy, and it's supposed to be funny. And Sean Astin is in it.
I've got to see this.
So,
this sounds good.
Yeah, so it's kind of like The Hangover for Christians. Because it's three
For Christian moms.
Three moms try to
know what I
plan
think
an
about that.
outing. They actually try to get away and do something fun, and the three dads are going to take care of everything and take care of the kids,
yes.
and everything goes horribly wrong.
Of course.
Everything goes horribly wrong. Have you ever seen a movie where that happens? Where people have the best
Like
of
Daddy
intentions?
Daycare?
Yeah, like anything with daycare in it, or Adventures in Babysitting, or
Kindergarten
Lord of the
Cop.
Rings.
I don't know where that came from.
Oh, it's in that genre.
Kindergarten Cop
I
and
agree.
Lord of the Rings. So anyway, check it out, because I mean, the Irwin brothers are the real deal. They're good, and some of my friends are doing all the
Maybe
marketing on
we'll
it.
watch it and review it.
Or maybe we won't watch it and review it.
Well, that
'cause
has happened.
That kind of seems to annoy our following.
Yeah.
The other reason that Drew Dyck is here today is because he has a new book. Look, I'm holding it up. For those of you listening, picture me holding a book with tigery feelings on the cover.
Actually, it's a tiger head.
Yeah, there's a tiger behind there. It says, Yawning at Tigers, you can't tame God, so stop trying. This is Drew's new book, which comes out when? What's the release date?
The 13th, which is next Tuesday.
Okay, but
Yeah.
it's already, you've seen it? You saw it at Barnes &
Noble?
Noble?
Yes, I saw it at Barnes & Noble.
You have one in your hand.
I have one in my hand. Well, yeah, it's because Drew gave it to me. I didn't go to the bookstore to buy it because there are no bookstores.
Can
So
you give me $10 after, though?
it's from Thomas Nelson,
Yes.
which is now a part of Zondervan.
Well, they're both like a part of HarperCollins.
They're just separate. Okay.
Yeah,
So they didn't
yeah.
get merged together?
They didn't get
Or
merged.
They're independent.
They're
But
independent.
HarperCollins is not a Christian publisher.
HarperCollins.
HarperCollins, sorry.
HarperCollins is a part of News Corp, which is a part of, what's his name?
Wow.
Murdoch.
Yes, Rupert
I know.
Murdoch.
Oh, my
You
goodness.
chase these things all the way out,
So
man.
it's a part of Rupert Murdoch, who is a
Yeah.
part of Australia.
Okay.
So your book is being put out by Australia.
By the criminals.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Where there are no
thank you.
tigers. Yawning at Tigers, this is a memoir of your days as a narcoleptic zookeeper.
It would sell a lot better if that was the case.
Okay, what's it about, Drew?
Well, it's about God. And I will expand on that.
Jesus.
And
And
Jesus.
Jesus.
Yes.
Good start.
Yes. Basically, the idea in the book is that I argue that we have domesticated God, or at least we've tried, especially in the Western evangelical church. And I start out with this story. Some of you probably remember in Zanesville, Ohio, a few years ago. There was this crazy guy that had a whole zoo. He released all his wild animals into the town. You remember this?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't remember that.
Oh, it's crazy. And then he took his own life.
Is there a video?
Yeah, it was
There's
probably
probably
lots
some.
of videos.
Probably some, because it was all over the news,
Yeah.
and they were telling people like there were bears and tigers and lions roaming this little town, and there were all these messages: stay inside, wild animals on the loose. And of course, everyone did because they were terrified, and they'd spot like a lion under the by the high school or under a street lamp or something. Anyway, I remember watching that in the news, and my mind went a different direction, and I started to think, these people realized that there was something wild and dangerous in their midst. And I realized as Christians, though, often we encounter God, we go to church, and yet we're kind of casual, kind of lackadaisical about our encounters with God, even though God is way more powerful, way more scary, way more dangerous than a tiger or a wild animal, and is just very other and different than us.
You quote Annie Dillard saying, "On the whole, I do not find Christians outside the catacombs sufficiently sensible of the conditions. Does anyone have the foggiest idea what sort of power we so blithely invoke? Or, as I suspect, does no one believe a word of it? The churches are children playing on the floor with their chemistry sets, mixing up a batch of TNT to kill a Sunday morning. It is madness to wear ladies' straw hats and velvet hats to church. We should all be wearing crash helmets."
I love that, yeah.
So are we thinking that God is safe when he is dangerous? And how do we explain a dangerous God to our kids and want them to feel comfortable with
That's
him?
a great question. Well, and there are really
Thanks,
two
Drew.
questions there.
Which chapter is that?
I'm sorry. Well,
Yeah.
it's near the end. But
Your Canadian just came out.
oh, did it really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
I'm sorry.
I'm trying
About
to.
that.
Yeah, we're all sorry, but
I
that's
thought
okay.
I'd
Go ahead.
Melted into the melting pot, but apparently.
Melting pot. I can hear it.
No,
every
yeah.
Okay, back
Oh
to
yeah.
God.
Sorry. Okay.
Dangerous.
Yes. Well, okay. First of all, God is safe in the sense that He loves us. I'm not saying that He's not safe somehow. But what I am saying is that I think in the evangelical church we have focused almost exclusively on His love. You just listen
Right.
to the worship songs that we sing.
Not if you come to my Southern Baptist Church in Laurel, Mississippi.
Well, that's great. See, there are some exceptions. But no, most of the worship songs, you listen to them, they could be sung to God or to a girlfriend.
That is true. There are those. That
Oh
can
yeah,
be sung to both.
absolutely. There it used to be, but and I'm not bashing all modern worship, but sermons are almost always on God's love, and there's nothing wrong with being reminded about God's love. I'm not saying that, but when we exclude or ignore His holiness, His otherness, even His wrath and justice,
Right.
which are kind of major themes in the Bible, what happens, unfortunately, is that love loses meaning.
But we have no point of reference for that.
You're absolutely right.
So
yeah.
here on earth, we have tons of reference for His love.
Yeah.
All the time. What point of reference do we have of His judgment or, His powerfulness or...
Well, if you're a televangelist, you'd say every natural disaster that hits a city known for having casinos.
True.
Yeah, no,
So
you're
how
right.
do you not go there?
You have
then,
to, exactly.
say, oh,
you have
God
to get
is
creative
dangerous
about the ways.
See?
Yeah. And
We've watched tigers eat people.
yeah, that's right.
When they,
Well,
when
we
they
have.
fall,
I don't know what zoo you're going to.
when they fall into the zoo or they jump in, But
Sure.
no, I mean, we've watched dangerous animals hurt people, so we know to hide.
When animals
Yeah.
attack.
We've
We
kind
got
of
those
read
reality
stories
shows.
in the Old Testament and watched people react to this powerful
But we
God.
downplay that. We
Yes, we
downplay
do.
that because that's not.
We can't truly
that's
see
not
that as real.
And you know what? More than downplaying it, we just ignore it altogether. 9 out of 10
Yeah.
sermons that are preached in this country are preached from the New Testament. Nothing wrong with preaching from the New Testament, but often I think that ignoring the Old Testament is a way to circumvent those stories that are disconcerting, that are troubling, that are
Right,
perplexing,
right.
in which God is judging people and doing all these crazy things. And you know what? This is something that's just a pet peeve. Okay, every time an atheist writes a book accusing God of being mean and somehow simultaneously non-existent, Christians come out with a whole raft of books explaining, oh, no, that's not what God really meant to do.
He was
there.
just misunderstood.
He was just misunderstood. And then by the time we get off apologizing for him, he comes off as hapless or misunderstood. He's a pussycat. I would prefer just to say, listen, God's dangerous. He's not a house cat. He's a lion. Go ahead and pet him if you'd like, but you're not going to get your arm back. That's kind of the tack I'd like to take.
Have you tried that with your kids?
No, okay, yeah, I'm getting to the kids. Okay, I promise.
Because I teach kids.
Yes,
so-
and that you're right. It's a whole other challenge. But okay, like you said, we don't have a point of reference for that in our culture. And getting back to the megachurch pastors who are maybe kind of soft pedaling the gospel,
Right.
we live in such a therapeutic culture, right?
Right.
So
Is that
whatever,
why there's so many kittens on the internet?
exactly.
That's why
That's
nobody
what we
can
want
ever
God to
win
be?
or
Well,
lose.
I
We
blame-
want God
I blame
to
the
be a
kittens.
piano-playing kitten.
Exactly. Yes. Or Tony Robbins. Yeah. So yeah, it's
piano
so
playing
whatever
Tony
makes us
Robbins.
feel good about ourselves, whatever's
Yeah.
therapeutic, whatever makes us happy, that's what we gravitate towards. And these other portrayals of God that might scare us a little bit, we just sideline. But that's a
Well,
huge
and
mistake.
it's super hard to comprehend. When
It is.
I'm in the middle of reading the Old Testament right now, and when I read the stories about God just outright killing people,
Mm-hmm.
because they touch a box.
The ark.
Yeah,
Yes.
the ark.
Yeah.
And
Sorry,
stuff
didn't
like
mean
that.
to touch your ark, God. I was just trying to
And-
keep
and
it from
the thing-
falling
the
over.
thing with that story,
Exactly. Thanks a
right?
lot.
Exactly.
Thanks
I was
for
just
killing me.
trying to do
Yeah.
something nice, trying to help you out here.
Exactly.
It's incredibly impossible to reconcile that with a loving God. So you can't reconcile what you see there and what you hear in the New Testament.
And you know that very story, you're right. It's a tough one. I was in Israel maybe 3 years ago with a group of American journalists, and we had a Jewish guide that was taking us through the Holy Land, showing us the sites and stuff. And he was awesome. He had this profound grasp of Scripture, Old and New Testament. And he would sit there and kind of give us little devotionals. And I remember one. He said, "The basic problem of the universe is that God wants to come down to earth and judge the wicked and redeem the righteous, but there's a problem. His presence is like radiation. Nothing can come near when God comes down, or else we'd die." And it sounded like that's kind of weird and scary and freaky and maybe even sacrilegious. But then I started to think of passages like that where that poor dude sticks out his hand to steady the Ark of the Covenant and he's struck dead. And it almost seems like when you're reading the Old Testament that there's this radioactive field surrounding
or
God.
Aaron's two sons that run
Yeah.
into the temple
Right.
to make
Yeah.
a sacrifice without doing the proper thing, and just bam, they're
Bang!
dead. They're
You have
dead.
Fire from heaven. Or
They're dead.
Moses, when he goes up at the mountain and God says, "Keep the people back lest I break out against them." It's almost like, hey, I almost can't control myself. I'm this wild animal. I'm going to kill people. Now, okay.
So come to Jesus, kids.
So come to Jesus, kids.
It's
It's the only way not to get eaten.
But here's why I think it's important to grasp
Help
that.
us, Drew. Help
is
us.
Because, okay, if your view of God is this sort of casual cosmic buddy deity that isn't really that great,
Piano
or holy,
playing kitten.
or a piano playing kitten, man, I wish I could have included that in the book.
it's not too late.
Then who cares that he loves you, right? What's the big deal? That's the relief of the gospel, is that this God, whom I stand under his judgment, this holy, magnificent, transcendent God, now has provided a way through the death of his son for us to be reconciled so that I can draw near to him. And we can, like Paul says, we don't come as fearful, cringing slaves, we come boldly to the throne of grace. So you do that, but it's only because of the incredible sacrifice of his son. So
You say something in here that I really liked. You say, we might imagine that God is a sort of Superman, just like you or me, but with additional powers.
But that kind of thinking betrays a dangerous illusion about God's nature. The truth is that God is radically different from us in degree and kind. He is ontologically dissimilar. More good words. Wholly other, dangerous, alien, holy, wild. I like that because it's so easy to think of God. Well, he's basically a human, but without limits.
Yes,
He's an unlimited human.
Yeah.
And that's comfortable because I can picture myself without limits. I could jump higher. I could dunk. So God is like me if I could dunk and never mess up.
Yeah.
You know, he's the me I've always wanted to be.
Sure.
And then he does things that don't make sense.
Yeah.
You know, and to just back up and say, no, he's not you on steroids. He's,
Right.
Yeah,
he's something
that's well put.
completely different.
Yeah,
and
different category.
I had this problem trying to write what's in the Bible because it became clear that you can't go through the whole Old Testament and just talk about love, you know, and that you don't really. And then we did the very first couple of videos, and our distributor was wondering, gee, would these sell more if we just went to the New Testament now instead of finishing the Old Testament? Could we just go to Jesus? You know, and my first was just like a knee jerk. Okay, that probably would sell better, but the Bible doesn't just go to Jesus, so I don't think we're just supposed to start with Jesus. So, and then I really had to think that through. Why is it so important not to start with Jesus? Because Jesus is the solution to a problem, and if you don't establish the problem, you don't know why you need the solution.
Sure.
You know, why do you need the medicine if you don't even know what the illness is? And so going back to the beginning, that led very quickly to trying to tell kids and getting across the concept, you know, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The fear of the Lord. Try to teach kids. When was the last time you heard a sermon on the fear of the Lord? You know, we don't know what to do with that. So things like that, I just said, all right, I am going to teach this to kids. I have no idea how, but I'm committing myself to explaining the fear of the Lord to kids. And what I ended up coming up with was kind of similar to what you're doing, but because you talk about the ocean. You know,
yes,
and the overwhelming power of the ocean and the beauty and the majesty, but take it seriously because it can kill you.
Yeah.
You know, and so I talked about fire, and we did this little animated thing that was like an old 1950s educational film of a happy husband at home trying to cook himself a meal. You know, and he turns on the gas burner, and he's being a little goofy, and his tie catches on fire. He says, fire is wonderful because it can heat your house and it can cook your food, but if you're not careful, it'll burn your whole life down, you know, and so his house burns down because he catches his tie on fire and he throws his tie on his drapes. And then we say, okay, this is God. You know, God's holiness is amazing, but you know, it's incredibly powerful, and you have to take it seriously. You have to take his holiness seriously. And so you have to hold these two things, holiness and love, in tension. You know, you can't do one without the other.
Yeah, so practically speaking, which is, I guess,
These
what
are the
I
toughest
always...
questions.
Christian's back.
No, I love it. I love it.
Practically speaking, if we were to grasp that, how does that change how we think about him or approach him in our daily lives?
Well, you know, I think the first, maybe the most obvious thing it affects is our worship of him, right? And I think we do celebration very well, and we do the kind of intimate language applied to God and to Jesus very well in our churches. But I don't think that often our worship has a sense of the sacred, a sobriety about God's holiness. So I think it would actually make our worship experience deeper. Mm-hmm. Just in the way we approach God. Maybe there'd be more silence. I don't know. I'm not a worship leader. But I think it would make it more rich and meaningful.
I like it when the worship leader gets up and says, shut the heck up, just to start out the service. Just shut up, everybody, and then you can be quiet.
I've never heard of that.
I know. They don't do that. They're afraid.
And I like it when the worship leader shuts up.
That's nice.
Mean. Shut up and sing that whole thing.
Yeah.
That's mean.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
There is something about, you know, there are sacred spaces that create more of a sense of respect. You know, and then we have, in the evangelical world, gone to such casual spaces
That's a good point.
For our worship. So we're worshiping in country clubs. It feels like I'm in a convention center.
Well, and I think that's the swing for a lot of people going back to a traditional or Catholic worship experience because it's more reverent.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
There's a big move for that now.
Right.
Right,
We did. There's a place in Oak Park, Illinois, an old church that does Taizé services. I don't know if you've ever gone down there.
Yeah.
My mother drags Wheaton College students down there every now and then, and we've gone a few times. And I think it's a Catholic church. It's 150 years old. It's soaring. There's frescoes everywhere. And then they do that, and then it's all candlelit. And it's just these simple songs repeated over and over again, packed full of people, so that you have to sit on the floor. So you're sitting on the floor with a candle under these frescoes that are 60 feet above your head.
Wow!
And it's like, I'm worshiping this. I have a sense. Somehow we can't just conjure a sense of God's majesty, out of nothing.
Right.
So it helps to have triggers, whether it's architecture or music or mental images or film. Maybe film could do that. Do you know anyone involved in film?
I do know that when I have seen some things that move me like that, it does make me turn and think about the awe and majesty of God.
Yeah, and some people have said this, and this, I think, is partly true for me, science. When you learn about the scope of the universe, when you learn about how much power is released by the sun every second, and we talked about on What's in the Bible, it's like 1 million atomic bombs of the size they dropped on Hiroshima is the amount of power released by the sun every second.
Wow.
And then the sun is one of 100 billion suns in 100 billion galaxies that each have 100 billion suns. And you think about how much power. Think about it like a waterfall like Niagara Falls, and then imagine that kind of power and say, okay, the person I am praying to right now made that power appear like that.
Yeah.
It's sobering. You're right.
Yeah, that makes you just want to just shut up.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And Francis Chan's Crazy Love video, have you watched that?
No, I haven't.
In his Crazy Love video, the first thing he does is takes you through that whole thing of space. And he starts with where we are on Earth and the picture of the Earth. And then he goes all the way out. He just will take it out till you get to the farthest view of the Hubble telescope. And as he does that, you're moved through to realize your position on the planet in light of a God that created all of that. And for me, that was a very powerful thing. So you're right. When we have to have that frame of reference, I think.
We need something to kind of snap you out of, this is my entire world in this living room.
Yeah.
This is all that matters to me, and this reality show.
Right.
About
Duck Dynasty.
Britney Spears.
And that's what makes the gospel so meaningful, right? Because it's only after you kind of understand the scope of the universe, say, or nature, and then you go, wow, what condescension, as the song says, that God, the creator of all this, actually, stooped to,
Cares about
to enter into a relationship with me.
So how old is your son?
He is 2.5 years old.
Okay, and only one? Still one?
One on the way, one coming in July.
Ooh, okay.
Like a little girl.
So how will this change your parenting?
Oh, man. These kids are going to be messed up. No. To the
We're
kid
gonna
question.
Adopt
and
a
of course,
tiger.
It's going to be a wild one. We're just going to let it roam free.
This is a life lesson, kids.
If you survive, you will understand the holiness of God. I commend you for trying to do this with kids, because that's got to be the toughest.
Thanks. It's not easy.
No, seriously. I don't even know how you do that.
We actually animated Aaron's sons running into the temple.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we turned that into a cartoon.
I love it.
Yeah, deal with it, kids.
Yeah, it's in the
That's
Bible.
holiness.
Mom and Dad, don't get mad
It's like
at
the
me.
people that come out of Noah mad that they had Noah get drunk.
Yeah, that's right.
Why would they make that stuff up? Like, have you even read the Bible?
Sure.
It's not in my wallpaper border. That doesn't have a drunk Noah. It just has cute animals.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
so what are you going to do?
I would say, you don't have to be unnecessarily graphic. The Bible is not R-rated, it's X-rated. If you look at all the things that happen in there, you don't want to go into details on every story.
Well,
with
it started
children.
off with 2 naked people.
Yeah, that's my favorite part. And now that's a reality show.
There's a story right there. You're right.
I know, I get sucked
Naked
into that
and
one.
they're not
Naked and
Eden.
afraid.
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
No.
It's a rougher place than Eden.
Thorns and all.
But at the same time, be sort of matter of fact. Don't say, "Oh, someone went to sleep." Say they died. I mean, and it's so funny because evangelicals, we claim to have such a high view of Scripture, and I think we do, until it comes to teaching it to kids. And then we're content to mangle it beyond recognition, extract dubious moral lessons.
And we assume that someone will teach it better later on.
Yeah, they'll get them later. That's right. What? Joseph wasn't about being nice to your brothers?
Is like in public school, if we say, yeah, I'm really not teaching them to read, but they'll get it later on. And then we got all these kids graduating from high school who can't read. Yeah. Guess what?
Well, I also think we've just become almost lulled. It's like the frog in water. It starts off in lukewarm water, and then before you know it, he's boiling in it.
He's a dead frog.
Like I listened to the story.
Are we the frog
of,
or are we the water?
We are the frog.
Okay.
I read David and Bathsheba, or you read that story in the Bible, and you understand David did a bad thing. What would happen if that was in a reality show today? I mean, if we actually saw that lived out, if our president did that, or if somebody else did that, I mean.
Scandalous.
It would be.
I
it would
think the
be
French
really
do that sort of thing all the time, don't they?
It would be really horrible. And
You
I just
have
think
to do that to get into office.
I just think we don't read the Old Testament like that.
Yeah, and incidentally, of course, it's not just the Old Testament, right? The New Testament, you got Jesus prophesying doom for recalcitrant cities. A good thing that I kind of realized when I was writing the book, okay, you got John, the disciple John. He describes himself as the disciple whom Jesus loved. He's depicted laying his head on Jesus' chest. I mean, a super intimate relationship with Jesus. And then that same disciple, years later when he's on the island of Patmos writing Revelation, he sees Jesus, this incredible vision where Jesus shows up with feet like bronze and a sword coming out of his mouth, just this crazy vision. And it says he falls at his feet as though dead when he sees the post-resurrected Christ. And so I think we do the first half of that equation pretty well, right? We like cozy up to Jesus, and I've heard women claim that they're dating Jesus, and I don't want to tell them that he'd have to divorce the church in order to do that, but
Jesus is my homeboy.
Exactly. But it's the second half of that equation that kind of gets tossed.
That's how square I am.
Yeah, I don't know if you're hip enough to say that.
Do you think in the world of literature, I'm thinking of Lewis and Narnia and Aslan, and he is not a tame lion. So
those are some of my favorite images.
So there are people have tried.
Yes.
People have made some really good efforts. Do you know of any other, children's books or other literature that really tries to capture that, or do we need to make some?
That's a great question. I mean, there's a whole corpus of literature on this topic. I'm having a hard time, other than the
picture
Lewis.
books.
George MacDonald. George MacDonald.
George MacDonald. Okay.
The Idea of the Holy, no pictures.
Okay.
Rudolph Otto. Anyway.
Okay.
But A.W.
Not
Tozer was great.
familiar.
You probably know
Tozer
that
was
name.
great, yeah.
Knowledge of the Holy. R.C. Sproul has written powerfully on this topic. So there are books out there. But I think it's far more effective, of course, to have a book like Lewis's where God's like a lion.
Right.
He's good, but he's not safe. And that's become really popular.
It's not tame.
Not tame.
Not
Is that
tame.
My
it? Okay.
favorite scene
That's
of
what Mrs. Beaver says.
Beaver, that's right.
Yeah, Mrs. Beaver knows lines.
Do you remember the scene in Voyage of the Dawn Treader where Eustace had become a dragon?
Yes.
And he, decided he wanted to make a turn and become a boy again. So
Yeah.
he goes and washes in the pool over and over again. But every time he looks, he's still a dragon. I think my favorite line in all of those books is where the lion approaches and says, "You have to let me undress you."
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful? And then he
Yeah.
takes his claw and
Yeah.
he jabs it into Eustace's chest and rips it, down. And he said, it was just so incredibly painful. And then he grabbed me and threw me into the water. And it was this burning, terrible feeling. And then I was a boy again. And it's just so powerful about, when you think about that is what God has to do with us in a lot. And
I
it's
actually
not.
tell that story in my talks.
You do?
Yeah, I do. Not in the one you heard in my second. No, in my first talk. If I have enough time.
Now I have to hear it.
Yeah, you have to go listen to my talk
It's out.
again because
Yeah.
I felt like that's what had just happened to me. That God is willing. If you actually say, "Help me out of this dragon skin," He'll say, "Okay," but it's going to hurt.
It's going to hurt.
It's not that easy. We'll just say these 5 words. Say this prayer, and then, ba-da! there's a death.
Well, and
Yeah,
I
that's
will
good.
venture to say that has to happen more than once. I think it is a repeated process throughout our life that we have to go back to that pool.
I have to hold up the book one more time for those of you watching on video. Our guest was Drew Dyck. The book is Yawning at Tigers. You Can't Tame God, so stop trying. Have you stopped trying? Do you feel like you've stopped trying?
No.
Or is this also for you?
This is written for me as much as anyone.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Available some places now, probably on Amazon, maybe in a Christian bookstore near you, everywhere May 13th.
May 13.
Okay,
Yeah.
so go buy it. He needs the Phil Vischer podcast.
I got little children feed.
Only one at the moment.
That's true.
And another one on the way. Oh, holy moly. Do you understand that God is holy? And do you see him like a tiger or fire? Can you conceive of him being any higher than just a Superman with extra powers like us who can fly around the world in an hour? But he's not. He's different in degree and in kind. And if you can keep that idea at the front of your mind, then like C.S. Lewis and his big old lion, you can have a conception of God that's flying much closer to reality. And then Drew Dyck will say, you're holy. Okay, thanks for coming. See you next week.
Bye, everybody.